This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
Canine Crew, it's time to just sell the damn thing. Doberman Dan is revealing his contrarian formula for getting a rush of new customers, building your business faster, and making the highest possible profits. Go to justsellthedamnthing.com to get your copy today.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
Joe Nation, how you been? Would you like to hear a little story?
I always want to hear stories from you, Doberman Dan.
Okay, here we go. Once upon a time, there were two little rose bushes named Danielle and Danny. Danielle and Danny were comfortable and happy in the nursery where they grew up. One day, two people came into the nursery and bought Danielle. They said they were expert gardeners and knew a lot about roses, and they did. They planted Danielle in rich soil where she had the best combination of sunshine, water, and nourishment. They kept the weeds and bugs away and handled Danielle with kindness and love. Danielle flourished and grew big and beautiful roses, and Danielle was happy. A short time later, two other people came to the nursery and bought Danny. They claimed they were expert gardeners and knew everything about roses. They planted Danny in sandy and salty soil. They put him in a spot with too much heat during the day and too much cold at night. They watered Danny too much one day and too little or not at all other days. And they didn't do anything about the weeds and bugs. In spite of all the odds against him, Danny survived. But he was wilted, stunted, and sad looking. One day, Danny looked across the field at Danielle. He saw that she was beautiful, healthy, and happy. Danny decided the problem was he was just no damn good. Sad story, right?
I feel bad for Danny.
I feel bad for Danny also, or I used to feel bad for Danny. But sad story, but common story. Most people I talk to, Jonathan, have been planted in an environment like Danny's. And what do you think would happen if you were planted instead of that? What if you would have been planted from a young age, just like Danielle, in rich soil where you had the best combination of sunshine, water, nourishment, all that other good stuff that a plant needs to be healthy, an environment where the weeds and bugs were kept away. And then just like the two gardeners treated Danielle, what would happen if you were treated with kindness and love? And isn't it funny, like of all the entrepreneurs I meet, most are planted in the bad soil, in the salty, sandy soil. And yet, and they're not treated with kindness and love, and they're not given the nourishment they need. But yet, in spite of all that, they survive and even thrive to an extent. But it's like against all odds, it takes superhuman effort to do that. I mean, what about the people in your inner circle? Do you talk to a lot of entrepreneurs? They're like, oh, grew up in a definitely a loving home, definitely not dysfunctional. And I was just had these great opportunities at school, which nurtured me and taught me could be an intelligent, creative person.
Yeah, right.
And I'm planted in this awesome, beautiful soil that, like the healthiest cows in the world shit right next to me. And I get all this great fertilizer. Is that the story of the people in your inner circle?
It's interesting that you use that analogy because I was in, a wine tasting. We got invited to a wine tasting, and one of the wines that was supposed to be really good, the best grapes around, were planted in rocky soil. And the reason they were good was because they had to fight to live and they were very healthy. So it's kind of interesting that you brought that up. But yeah, I grew up probably not too different from you, where it was lower middle class, get a job, get a trade. My dad even said it to my sister recently, like, you need something to fall back on, that whole mindset of poverty and not enough.
Yeah, God, I heard that so often. You need something to fall back on. Yeah, especially because, telling anybody that your plan is to be a full-time musician, they automatically just think that's a pie in the sky. And I mean, you look at the numbers, it really is.
Yeah.
So very few of them can even make a living, but they do. Some do, Well, look at the odds of having a successful business. It's actually pretty piss poor when you really just look at the raw numbers, but yet lots of people do, in spite of being planted in the sandy, salty dirt that they're planted in. And then the other common reaction is, well, I'm just no damn good. Instead of realizing like, hey man, I didn't get the stuff I needed to be my ideal self. I'm not getting the stuff I needed. This is some really bad soil for me, a really bad environment. I'm going to have to pull up roots and like go find where Danielle is and put myself in that environment.
Right.
Which, association, right? Finding people who do love you and treat you with kindness and support your dreams and goals instead of shooting it down. And that is not easy to find. Like even amongst your peers, it's rare to find that. Even amongst, if you talk to other people who are in the same business with you, not easy to find. I mean, that's my goal with the Marketing Camelot, is to provide the environment that Danielle in the story had, to give the struggling person in the process of self-realization the love and kindness that they don't get from the outside world, along with the pragmatic how-to stuff. Because like this is so common, being stuck in that salty, sandy soil, not getting enough sun, getting too much sun, not getting enough water one day, getting too much water the next day. But that just requires making the decision to pull up your roots and go plant yourself in the best soil you can find. And I think that's the goal with a lot of masterminds and coaching and memberships like my Marketing Camelot, right?
Yeah, man. I have to say, since we're speaking about this, I'm going to give a shout out to the Hirsches, because that's the thing. Like when you get into the right environment, like that was I think your 25K group or Gold Mastermind, but it's other people trying to encourage each other's dreams. And you put us in that environment and you can make lifelong friends with people who get it. But the thing is, most people don't get it. Like they think that their friends and their environment is just the way things are supposed to be. But yeah, you can pull up your roots and go plant yourself somewhere else. You got to be aware. You got to be willing to hurt. You got to be willing to just tell the people in your life to go screw themselves and go find new people who support your dreams.
So true. I heard John Carlton say something once that has stuck with me I probably heard it more than 20 years ago, maybe even 25 years ago. I don't know. He's a super creative guy, so he might have come up with this himself, or he might have been inspired by another author. But I've said it a lot since then, and it means I totally understand it a lot more now than when I heard it 20 plus years ago. But he's fond of saying, you're writing the script of your life, just like a movie script. You're writing the script for the whole thing. For your character, your persona, you're the protagonist. You're writing the villains. You're writing the scenes in which you're living, which, I mean, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but so quantum physics backs that up, as does just about most other ancient texts, well-known texts, like the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, the Bible, the Torah. They're basically all saying the same things, that you are writing the script to your life. The reality that you see, you're not just participating in it, you're creating it. And really, when you look at it from what the virtual reality guys do, then you really start to get it. Like what you're seeing in front of you appears as a solid thing, but it's not really solid. It's a mass of atoms and smaller than atomic particles that are just vibrating at different rates. It's your senses and your eyes are sending electrical signals to your brain, causing that image. So, no woo-woo stuff here. I mean, quantum physics has proven it, that you are creating that reality, because there's no real image of what you're looking at in front of you, like this computer I'm looking at. That's just a mass of energy vibrating at certain rates. But my eyes are translating that information into electrical signals in my brain, causing the image. So John Carlton's thing that I thought was really interesting 20 years ago, you're writing the script of your life. It means so much more to me now that, I understand that, we truly are creating our own reality. And, it sucks that you were planted in shitty soil in a crappy environment and people didn't nourish you like you wanted to, but there's nothing for preventing you from pulling up roots and go and plant yourself in better soil with people who will treat you with love, compassion, and kindness. And, I hope that this resource here, this podcast, will be some contribution in some small way. Maybe this is a tiny little patch of good soil out in the ether that you can plant yourself in. Find yourself a support group, a mastermind.
Get into Marketing Camelot.
You get in the Marketing Camelot. Trust me, I do know my opinion is biased.
You don't say.
I mean, I think that has my goal been reached yet of providing the love, compassion, and kindness and good soil that people need to grow? No, I've not reached it yet, but I think like we're well on the way. I've got some changes coming too, which will take it to the next level. But I'm just worried about the people who don't do something to plant themselves in good soil and being taken care of by good caretakers who love them. Because what I've seen, I've been in this over 30 years now. What I've seen, those who just allow themselves to stay in that bad soil, they can survive for a time, but then they start going backwards. That's always the inevitable results. No matter how strong you are, they always wither and die. So you gotta seek out those patches of good soil and those people who will nourish you with kindness and love.
I got a question for you. Have you been, somebody told me that they listen to the show and they think that you're getting into like L. Ron Hubbard and Dianetics. Is that an accurate assessment?
I've never read Dianetics. I don't have any desire to.
Okay.
L. Ron Hubbard, I'm fond. In the past, I've been fond of making fun of him. Just like smart ass little comments in my newsletter, like praise Jeebus, Moises, Muhammad, the cow prophet, Abubakar, the poo slinging monkey guru, and L. Ron Hubbard. Did I cover all the major ones? I've said things like that just being a smart ass. I don't think.
So funny that came up. I was like, no way, not Dan. They're like, he's talking about love and all this. And I'm like, I think Dan is just getting enlightened, but okay, I'll ask.
Yeah, Dianetics, L. Ron Hubbard, not familiar with it at all. Just familiar with it by observation of people I know who are in it and people who tried to, what is the word, proselytize me into it. And that was shut down in a New York minute. But the most educational information about Scientology was presented on South Park. So check out that episode. So no, not into that. More into quantum physics and seeing how a lot of ancient texts were saying the same thing as the modern day quantum physicists. It's just when the ancient texts say it, it sounds like mysticism. And when the quantum physics guys explain it, it's like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think people get lost in that. Even me, I had a problem with the idea, like, they talk about vision boards and things like that. I just thought it was the stupidest thing for so many years. But sitting there and meditating and visualizing the future you want and doing that regularly, I believe helps connect not just the neural pathways, but connect you to that vision. And so that's what I think people are missing. It's like, it's not the secret. You're not just going to meditate on it and it's going to fall into your lap. But when you know what you want and you have a clear picture of it, you can build a pathway. Or as John Carlton said, you could write the story of your life.
Yeah, good observation. I used to think those vision boards and all that stuff was bullshit. I did it for a while. So my introduction in entrepreneurship was Amway. I was just, a full-time cop, and somebody got me in the Amway business. So it was, I knew nothing about starting a business for yourself or even thinking like a business owner. So that got that going in my demented mind, thinking like a business owner. And they said, create the vision board. And I thought, that is kind of bullshit, but whatever, I'll do it. They say it helps. And still I didn't really believe in that for years. And I even struggled with a goal setting thing. Like, it's kind of bullshit. Write your goals, and I never achieve them every year. It's the same thing. But then weird stuff started happening years later, like stuff I'd put on a vision board decades before I started getting material things that I wanted for 30 years. I started getting them in the exact way that I put on the vision board. Or one, I didn't use pictures. I wrote it out in words. And when I moved to the new home, I found that buried in a box. I totally forgot about it. When I read the description, it was like, out of the 50 things I said I wanted a home, I had 49. The only thing that was missing is I said I wanted it to be on 5 acres. But, a few years later, that dream kind of died. I'm like, what am I going to... I got a dog that won't walk in the grass. I don't have any horses. And what do I do outside? Nothing. So why do I want 5 acres, But that's pretty wild. I mean, like, that can go woo-woo too. And people can think this is bullshit and blow it off. But really, it's just simple psychology. It's just activating the reticular activating system, which means, you're in a big crowd of people and you say, find me all the people with the blue shirts, and everybody starts focusing on blue shirts, and they count and they say, okay, there are 157 people with blue shirts. And they ask them, great, how many red shirts? They're like, because the reticular activating system wasn't looking for it. But if you tune up your reticular activating system, well, now it's tuned in, it's looking for that. And so when opportunities come by or you hear things, it's like your antenna is up, because that's what your brain's doing its thing. You told it to keep an eye out for those things.
The flip side of that, Dan, and we should warn people of the mistake, is also thinking about the negatives too much and focusing too much on the negative. And then you're drawn to the negative and getting yourself more negative results. It works both ways, and you can just flip a switch and decide which way you want it to work for you.
Yeah, so true. Like, worry and fear is just negative imagination of the future. So I still haven't figured out how to control thoughts. There's that bastard in your head that just never seems to shut up. But you can become aware of your thoughts, because, like, you're the observer. You're not the guy producing the thoughts, but you are the guy who can observe them, or gal, excuse me. I'm of the male persuasion, so I
for one or two listeners out there.
Yeah, really. For the one woman who listens. The Colombiana is starting to listen now, so there's at least one.
Way. Are you forcing her?
For some reason, she's interested in listening.
What's the change? How did this come about? I need to know about this.
Well, she's getting more into the business. So she was always a partner on paper, but now she's becoming a partner as a partner, like Cupcake. So she's helping me with some things, some operational, logistical things. And what I didn't, amazing, after what is almost 16 years of being together, I guess I didn't really have a good grasp of how good her mind is with numbers and statistics. So way better than mine. So now she's digging into all these statistics and Google Analytics and looking at the sales and looking at sources of traffic and sources of clients and figuring out, like, hey, guess what? And she'll figure out this big breakthrough. Like, hey, this thing that you thought sucked and you cut it off because...
Oh, it works so good you quit doing it, eh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Or no, it wasn't perfect. I've been doing this almost 3 decades and writing copy for 27 years. So, I'm entitled to kick ass, damn near impossible results. And this latest thing didn't get kick ass impossible results. So screw it. I'm going to be a big whiny bitch and just screw it and shut it down. It wasn't perfect. And so she's looking at this like, yeah. So X number of people bought the front end. And then pretty much, a year's worth of data shows that this percent people bought the back end, which was the entire goal in the process of this whole deal. So what's the deal? Where is the problem? And so
you are the problem, Dan.
That was the problem. There was some logistical stuff. Like I had to get the price of certain things down, and I wasn't charging enough on the front end. So, she's been really good at that stuff. Now she took something I was going to kill that was negative on the front end and is now break even on the front end, and the back end's a consistent winner. So now she's getting more into this stuff.
Oh, it's like a game with her. She's like increasing the score. I like it.
Oh, yeah. And
like
excited about it.
That's excellent. I'm happy to hear that. All right. So I took you off in a whole nother direction. I couldn't resist. But Dan, what do you have coming up for us next time?
I'm going to talk about my secret to 3-to-1 ROI on your marketing dollars.
Dude, you already gave it away. La Colombiana.
That's right. And I haven't run this by her, but I think she'd be amenable to you hiring her for $100,000 a month.
Okay. All right. 3-to-1, right? So I'm going to make 300 on that. Awesome. So that is it for this episode of the show. Thank you, Canine Crew, for tuning in. We will be back in your earbuds next time.
Canine Crew, before you run off, I want to remind you, Doberman Dan has set up an off-the-chain hotline. Call in, tell us you love us. It's even better if you tell us you hate us. It doesn't matter what you say. All you have to do is call in, leave a message. The number is 321-424-6043. Again, off-the-chain hotline, 321-424-6043.
This is the podcastfactory.com.